If you've been scrolling through endless desktop options, weighing the hype of AI-powered against the fear of overpaying for a box you'll barely use, you're not alone. I've been in that exact spot, staring at spec sheets, trying to imagine how a machine will actually feel on a day-to-day office desk, and worrying that the wrong choice could end up as a costly paperweight. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to break down the HP OmniDesk M03 Business AI PC, point out where it actually delivers value, and help you decide if it belongs in your workspace or if you should keep looking. First off, the OmniDesk M03 is positioned as an AI-powered business desktop, which sounds flashy until you ask yourself what that really means for the average professional. The unit ships with an Intel Ultra 5 225 processor paired with a massive 64GB of DDR5 RAM and a 1TB SSD. For anyone who runs multiple Office apps, a handful of browser tabs, a CRM system, and maybe a light photo editing tool at the same time, that amount of memory is more than enough to keep everything buttery smooth. I've seen smaller business PCs choke when you open a spreadsheet, a Teams call, and a web-based analytics dashboard all at once. The OmniDesk handles that without a hiccup. The AI part is essentially a set of software optimizations in the BIOS and Windows 11 that prioritize workloads like video conferencing and document scanning, so you get a tiny latency boost when you're, say, uploading a scanned contract while a large PowerPoint is rendering. It isn't a dedicated AI accelerator, but for the typical Office user the effect is noticeable in the form of faster app launches and less stutter when you switch between tasks. Connectivity is another place where the M03 tries to earn its business badge. Built-in Wi-Fi 6 gives you a solid wireless link even in congested office environments, and the rear I/O includes multiple DisplayPort and HDMI outputs, making a 3-monitor setup a breeze. I've actually set up a dual-monitor workflow for a client using this exact model, and the screen stayed perfectly in sync without any flicker, something that's often a headache on cheaper consumer desktops that only offer a single HDMI port. The inclusion of a USB-C port that supports data transfer and power delivery means you can connect a laptop or external SSD without hunting for adapters, a small convenience that adds up over a year of daily use. Now, let's talk about the practical downsides that can trip up certain buyers. The first red flag is the operating system. The machine comes with Windows 11 Home, not the Pro Edition that many IT departments prefer for domain joining, BitLocker encryption, and group policy management. If you're a solo freelancer or a small team that manages its own devices, Home is fine. If you're looking for a machine that will be integrated into a larger corporate Active Directory environment, you'll either have to purchase a Pro license separately or look at a different model. The second concern is upgradability. The chassis is a sleek, compact professional case that looks great on a desk, but it's not designed for frequent hardware swaps. The RAM is soldered in a few places, and the SSD is a standard M.2 slot that you can replace, but adding a discrete GPU is essentially impossible without opening the case and dealing with tight clearances. So if your workflow ever expands to 3D rendering, video editing, or any task that needs a dedicated graphics card, the OmniDesk will quickly become a bottleneck. Finally, the price point sits a bit higher than a typical consumer desktop with comparable CPU and storage. The premium you're paying is really for the business-oriented chassis, the pre-installed AI software layer, and the warranty support that HP advertises for business customers. If you're only after raw compute power for casual gaming or hobbyist programming, you could get more bang for your buck elsewhere. Who should consider buying the OmniDesk M03? The sweet spot is small to medium businesses that need a reliable, ready-to-deploy workstation for employees who juggle office apps, video calls, and light creative work. The 64 GB of RAM means you can run virtual desktops or remote desktop sessions without worrying about memory pressure, and the multi-monitor support makes it easy to set up collaborative workstations on the fly. It also fits nicely for remote workers who want a tidy, professional-looking desktop that they can leave on all day without overheating or noisy fans. The HP chassis is engineered for 24/7 operation, and the thermal design is quiet enough to not disturb a home office. On the other hand, If you're a startup founder looking for a cheap entry point, a graphic designer who relies on GPU acceleration, or an IT manager who requires Windows Pro out of the box, you'll probably want to skip this model and look for a more modular or higher-spec alternative. In day-to-day use, the strengths of the OmniDesk become clear. A typical morning starts with Outlook syncing, a Teams meeting launching, and a spreadsheet auto-refreshing, all happening simultaneously with no lag. Midday, you might pull up a PDF of a contract.